Welcome back everyone, my name is LastKnownMeal and today we're going to be talking about Cyberpunk 2077 on PlayStation 5. So the reason why I wanted to make this video is because I wanted to specifically focus just on the PlayStation 5 edition of this game, because this is also the first time that I'm playing Cyberpunk on a PlayStation. Before that was everything on PC, and also all of the gameplay you're going to see in this video is only going to be from PlayStation. Now, for the obvious reasons, I didn't want to go and buy Cyberpunk for PlayStation 4 because, well, you know, the game is having issues there, and this entire time I was just waiting for the next gen edition. Now keep in mind, you were able to play, Cyberpunk on PlayStation 5 before, but you were playing the backwards compatibility version of the game, hence you were also getting a lot of patches which PlayStation 4 is getting on PlayStation 5, which does mean that some of the, let's say, things in the game like the density of vehicles or NPCs in the game was lowered a lot. Even though PlayStation 5 is capable of running that more than PlayStation 4, it was still having issues due to being heavily tied to the PlayStation 4 version. But now, obviously, because the PlayStation 5 is the standalone edition, now they can properly implement updates and fixes to it without generally just, going also for PlayStation 4. And this was a perfect example with the latest update, patch 1.5, where they implemented some of the new things that AI was doing and what NPCs were doing in the game, something that didn't really make its way onto PlayStation 4. I don't know why. It could be that just those things would draw a lot more resources from the console itself. Again, I'm not a developer, so I wouldn't know, but at the same time, this is kind of sad. It's not going to be a part of PlayStation 4, but obviously PlayStation 5 got that, and it's very much visible in the game. Now, some of the biggest takeaways I got from these 2 days of playing on PlayStation is that it's pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie, like I was expecting some drops in frame rate and all of that, to be honest, like bugs and glitches, but I didn't get it. Like, I honestly had a smooth experience overall when I was playing, and I've been playing for quite a bit of time now. Also keep in mind that there were some situations in the game where I did still have a few cars drop on top of me. Now that is something I haven't seen on PC in a very long time, but that is something which I've seen on PlayStation 5, and it was kind of funny to see. But at the same time, I was really happy to look at the NPC density around me, especially when it comes to vehicles and people that are present in the city itself, because it's much more than it was before. From all of the gameplay footage I've seen before, like that people were posting prior to this update and ever since the release of the game, there was a definitive lack of NPCs, on the streets, and that's mostly tied, well, to a few things. On PlayStation 4, the problem is that number one, the hardware is old, and at the same time you have like the engine, which is very demanding when it comes to the CPU, when it comes to GPU, and when it comes to transfer speeds, which includes your hard drive or SSD in PlayStation 5. So obviously the engine was not able to stream all of those things onto your console because it has to maintain certain frames. So if it spawns too many objects on the road, it's just going to tank your frame rate immensely. And what I was happy to see that on PlayStation 5, even though that it sometimes spawned a lot of NPCs or cars around me, I wasn't getting any FPS hiccups. The game was very stable on 60 frames on performance mode. Now keep in mind, there is obviously the ray tracing mode, which is basically lowers your frame rate to 30 frames. Now for a lot of people who want a generally smooth experience when it comes to like 60 frames and all of that, I think a lot of people won't be using 30 frames, because I found myself like turning on the ray tracing mode for a few minutes just to see how the city performs. And don't get me wrong, like the frame rate is going to stay at 30 frames. Like, you're not going to have huge hiccups where the game is completely going to crash or anything like that, or where you will have moments where you have like 30 frames and then somewhere else you're gonna have 5 frames. The game is maintaining good frame rate. Those 30 frame rates, but at the end of the day it's still 30 frame rates, and a lot of people don't like that, including me. I just couldn't play in 30 frames. I just couldn't. So I just ended up going to performance mode, which still, don't get me wrong, graphically this game looks good on PlayStation 5. Everything is sharp, everything is nice, everything has good colors, everything has good textures. I didn't have problems with textures just loading in front of me. You know, those moments where like you will have like an object and it's not going to fully be rendered or loaded in. I honestly did not have those moments in the patch 1.5 on PlayStation 5, and that is something that I've seen people like, you know, see themselves on their PlayStations prior to this update, and that was a huge problem when the game came out, when you had those muddy faces and all of that. And that was the problem because the textures were just not fast enough to load in front of you, and obviously you ran into those issues. But I am incredibly glad this is not happening anymore, because honestly that's one of the things which really annoys me personally. Although don't get me wrong, there are still moments in this game where sometimes the road is going to be completely empty. There are still moments in this game where I'm going to see like cars spawn in front of me in some cases, like they're actually visibly going to spawn in front of you, but it's nowhere close to as it was before. Now, another feature which I really like about this are the adaptive triggers. I cannot describe you how good that thing is. Like, it's such a nice little cool addition. So basically, PlayStation 5 has adaptive triggers, and a lot of new games started to basically use this to simulate certain things. Like, for example, when you're driving a vehicle on PlayStation 5 in Cyberpunk, it's going to simulate how you give gas, how much resistance would a gas pedal give you, how much resistance would a let's say a brake pedal give you, etc, etc. So it gives you like a really nice simulation of how you would press those pedals, and also once the clutch comes into place, once the gear shift comes into place, all of those things are going to appear kind of on this adaptive trigger. That comes the same for shooting. So for example, as it was in previous games, like for example, I believe Metro Exodus implemented that, Cyberpunk has the same thing. So when you're shooting, you're going to have like a really cool immersive effect because it's going to simulate a real trigger. So you will have like some breathing room on your trigger, and then you're going to hit that wall as it basically is, and then you click, and basically that's when the character shoots. I got too accustomed to this to the point where now I'm kinda sad that when I'm playing it on PC I don't have the same effect. So I do hope they take this adaptive trigger and they put it on PC somehow. Please, please, just do it. Because those things are just insane, and it's definitely something you must try out. I cannot, like, it's impossible for me to describe you how good this feels unless you try it for yourself. So hopefully like this shortage is going to pass and people are able to like experience it on their PlayStation. But I won't lie, prior to the patch 1.5 releasing, the console versions of the game were my biggest fear, because CDPR is very much capable of producing games on PC. You know, CD Projekt Red, that's their thing. That's where they started, on PC. Witcher 1 was always PC, Witcher 2 was PC. Only later on they started doing console versions. And it seems like you can see it that they're best when it comes to porting games on PC. But when it came to like consoles, and when it came to just, you know, downsizing everything which was made for PC, it proved to be quite an issue and quite a problem. But I'm glad that they sorted it out, at least when it comes to PlayStation 5. Obviously, PlayStation 4 is going to have its limitations, and sadly, as I said before, you're not going to see all of the support you have on PlayStation 5 and PC and Xbox Series X and everything. You're not going to see it on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. That's a sad reality, but that's just how things are, sadly. But at least they gave a free upgrade from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5. So honestly, I just went and bought like a PlayStation 4 disc version for like 15 bucks, and I was able to play this. So if you can get like a used physical copy of Cyberpunk, if you can find it for really cheap, and if the disc is okay, if it's not scratched, I definitely recommend getting it, because it's just, you know, you're going to save a bunch of money instead of like paying like a full price for not even a full price, but obviously paying more for a digital version of the same game. So you decide at the end of the day. So yeah, I would also recommend this for people who are yet to experience Cyberpunk. If you have PlayStation, yeah, get it, because this thing is quite nice. Obviously, if you're looking for ray tracing mode, that's just, you know, it's not great. It's gonna give you 30 frames, but at least the frame rate itself is going to be stable, and at least you're not going to crash. So yeah, my fears are now gone when it comes to this, and also you have a free trial. Obviously, you can try out for basically like 5 hours, so that's gonna be available this month. I believe it's not going to be available after that, so give it a shot. Who knows? You might actually like it. And this is everything for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to tell me down below what do you think about all of this. Tomorrow I will be streaming Cyberpunk 2077, so feel free to check that out. And also huge thanks to everyone for supporting the channel. We passed over 70,000 subscribers. The views have been great. The support and videos has been amazing. So thank you so much for that. And I'll see you everyone in the next video. And also, if you want to stay tuned with everything, you can follow me on Twitter and join our community on Discord, where we discuss everything else when it comes to games, especially Cyberpunk and also everything else. So feel free to join us. And huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters. This is LKM again, signing out, and stay classy everyone. Bye bye.